Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about that state of play. Now, I know many of you who watch my channel often are probably going, is that the color blue? Mr. Matty and PlayStation, what's going on here? Surprise, surprise, don't mind me. Just, passing through. In all seriousness, trying to broaden the coverage as much as I can where it makes sense. So today, I wanted to talk about the state of play as a little bit of a testing ground. If this video flops, it's on you, not me. And now, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen, because I have some thoughts on the overall showcase, but also the up and down nature of it. Now, stepping into it, the rumor was that this was going to be a very low-key showcase. So my expectations were tempered, and then PlayStation said PSVR 2 and Suicide Squad. And I went, okay, I'm feeling lukewarm on Suicide Squad, and I'm not interested in PSVR at all. It's not because it's bad or anything. I just kind of fell out of the VR game once Meta made you tie a Facebook account to things, and finally they're getting rid of that. But that to me was the death of VR. So I was like, nah, I got nothing to hide, but that's a little too invasive for my taste. So we're going to be talking about everything but PSVR in this video here today, just because I haven't tracked PSVR at all, and I have nothing worthwhile to say about any of the games shown. But what I do have something to say about is Suicide Squad and many others shown throughout this showcase. As we're going to get into Baldur's Gate 3, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Street Fighter 6, and so much more. So welcome one, welcome all. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Let's get started. Suicide Squad. This was the way they ended the show. I want to start off my video with it because I have thoughts. Now, I don't want to get too negative off the rip here. I like to ease into that. So let's start off with what is good. Number one, there seems to be, at least from the outside looking in, we won't know until we play it, a focus on the story in some way. And the story is literally killing the Justice League, as the Flash says in one of the cutscenes shown in the trailers that in order for Wonder Woman to free the Justice League, they need to die. And I love that premise. Like, as a comic book fan, I love the idea of our greatest heroes going down. It would be absolutely tragic, and I'm all about tragic storytelling if it's handled well. You can see this is where Rocksteady's specialty with superhero games is coming into play. Don't worry, we'll get to the gameplay soon. I'm not ignoring that part of things, but when it comes to the cutscenes and presentation, this is now 2 trailers in a row for me, where when they did the Kevin Conroy trailer and they did this one, I went, okay, they have a clear grasp of superhero culture. I think they're representing them well in this not tacky one-liner, goofy nature. It feels very original. So I do appreciate that. I also appreciated when it came to the gameplay, the level of movement. Some people have said it's a little too floaty. I totally get that. For me, I just love how Harley Quinn's like web swinging pretty much. Does it make much sense? No, but I dig it. It looks like you were just flying all over Metropolis. That's the end of the nice things I have to say. Otherwise, my God, am I concerned right now, because when you start focusing on gear score and battle passes and post-launch content, yeah, of course, I'm a single-player fan. Of course, RPGs are my favorite genre, so this is going to bounce off of me by default. But I still don't ignore every live service game and do give them a fair shake. If I'm going to trust anyone with a fair live service title, Rocksteady would likely be on my list because, they've, in my opinion, not made a whack game. So I'm about them. But when they started getting into that bag, I was like, man, this is giving me Avengers flashbacks, Gotham Knights flashbacks, and I don't want to see gear scores in my superhero games. My favorite superhero games did not involve RPG mechanics. I think of Spider-Man 2, Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Like, you could unlock skills, but there weren't these equip this elbow pad and this helmet and get this legendary weapon. They started showing off skins. I know it's a taste thing, but I just look at the game as a whole, and then I look at the developer behind it, and that lack of originality stings. Because right now we're looking at the team that puts superhero games in a AAA level on the map, right? I mean, you could look at older ones. I talked about Spider-Man 2 and Hulk Ultimate Destruction, how they did special things during their times, and make no mistake, they did. But when it came to a big budget investment, it was really with Arkham Asylum that things started to turn around and we started to see those bigger investments. And now we have awesome games like Spider-Man from Insomniac. So when I see the team that created Free Flow Combat making this third-person shooter where you're just targeting a purple weak spot on a ton of enemies, and there's 4 characters, but they all look like they play the same. Again, it really lacks that originality because they're going down the same live service route I've seen so many times. Guns, 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 all these different types of guns, but like the class structure themselves, if you will, which would be the individual heroes, didn't seem distinct enough at all. Like, every character moved the same, was floaty in the same way. was shooting guns the same way. I think the only difference was that Deadshot would float for a longer time and that King Shark was pounding the ground. But otherwise, you know, I saw no remnants of the team that I fell in love with here. So I definitely walked away from it very uncertain because I want to trust Rocksteady. I'm going to give them the fair shake at launch, but this did not look as original as I was hoping for. And when you think about, you know, the fact that there was supposed to be a Superman game and you see Metropolis is kind of the setting here, and I think what could have been stings a little bit more. But yeah, Suicide Squad was not really doing much for me here, and that's disappointing to say because the wait for a new Rocksteady game has been long, and I hope they don't miss here. And if anything, I hope it ends up being the Marvel's Avengers that we never got. If it ends up being that, I think that is a win and a step in the right direction. But ultimately for me, these gear scores, these live service elements in superhero games are not a winning formula. So that's what I gotta say about Suicide Squad. We also saw Baldur's Gate 3. This was game of the show for me for obvious reasons. Larian Studios, you want to talk about a studio that has never missed. Divinity Original Sin 1, 2 being one of the best RPGs of the last generation. And now Baldur's Gate 3 rolls around. It's coming out August 31st. This game looks fire. I am ready to go into this game, do my first playthrough, then come back a year later, do another playthrough with probably a definitive edition. I know how Larian works. They are like a well-oiled machine, and I love it. They make some of the most replayable games. If you have not tried them out, please do so. I've already known this from the alpha that they had that was playable for fans, but the cinematic feel of this game, whether it's in dialogue and the over-the-shoulder camera, really does a lot for this game and brings me back to Dragon Age Origins, which, you know, the Dragon Age franchise I have a lot of love for, but it also is kind of painful because I want so badly for them to go back to the Origin style gameplay, and they keep veering further and further from it, reinventing the formula in every other way but the original, which was extremely successful. So what Larian's doing overall just speaks to the BioWare fan in me, and it just looks like the perfect game for me. So I cannot wait, counting down the days until August 31st, and that's going to look to be a good month because apparently Liza P is also dropping in August. Hopefully it's at the start of the month and not the end of the month, if you catch my drift. We also got another look at Resident Evil 4. I was very impressed by this, again, unsurprisingly. You know, Capcom's been smashing these remakes. Now, just to be fully transparent, I only played Resident Evil 4 for the first time ever in 2021. A little retro rebound fun fact, it was our first ever So I Played for the First Time video, and I haven't played it since. But to me, what was new was we got a lot more Luis. Like, I really like how they're making him a little more heavily integrated into major gameplay sections. That's not something I recall. I also like how they were showing Ashley and Leon with signs of infection of some kind. This game looks epic. I'm seeing more and more. It looks like they are shifting things up a bit. It's interesting because what Game Informer said is that it's more faithful than they had expected, but then this trailer to me showed in some areas the opposite. Like, the gameplay looked identical and the locations looked identical. They even showed the island section, which I was like, oh yeah, that part where I was getting a machine gun shot at me, that was fun. It all looks the same, but having more Luis, to me, is a win. Otherwise, this game looks fantastic. They announced that there's a demo coming. That was kind of expected. This has been Capcom's specialty. They did it with Resident Evil 8 during a state of play. They did it with 7. So they've always had a little demo for these Resident Evil games, and I had a pretty good feeling that they do so again for a remake. They didn't give us a date. They just said special demo coming soon. So I imagine within the next week or so, we'll know what's happening with that. But Resident Evil 4 looks fantastic, and Capcom's just... they're on a mountain right now, man. They're doing fantastic because so does Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter has been a fighting game that's never really grabbed me. I've tried it multiple times, 4 and 5, could not get into it. There's something with the fluidity and style of 6 that's pulling me in, and I think many others, and I want to give it another shake. They announced the 3 final characters for the game, which were Cammy, Lily, and Zangief. I gotta say, Lily looks awesome. Cammy reminded me so much of Zero Suit Samus in Smash Ultimate, so I'm definitely into her whole style, it was funny. I was watching the stream and everyone was calling everything mid and L's, and then Cammy shows up and the whole chat's like, oh, yo, it's lit, let's go. I was like, gee, I wonder why. So yeah, Street Fighter 6 looks awesome. We saw a little bit of Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion. It's a cinematic trailer. It's coming out soon. I think this is going to be where I dip my toes into Destiny 2. Y'all can fire away in the comments down below. Is this like a good starting point for Maddie or not? I'm curious what you'll say, because my co-host Cog has been saying, yeah, you could try it out here. Like, they're making it beginner friendly, but I'm curious what the general audience is also going to say, because I want to give it a try. I want to see what everyone is raving about. For the record, I haven't played Destiny since the vanilla version on PS4 back in, like, when did it come out? 2014. And I bounced off that game quick. So y'all let me know. But then my heart sank a little bit. I saw a Naruto symbol and I went, oh man, like, I've been on a little bit of a Naruto kick lately. So Naruto Cross Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections is a game now. This one I found mighty perplexing because I own already the Ultimate Ninja Storm Legacy, and when I saw this trailer and they said relive all of the Naruto Sasuke arc, I was thinking, okay, it's a collection again? How is this possible? But it turns out there are some new wrinkles here, but ultimately I wouldn't let the branding fool you. The official Naruto video games account is claiming it's the next entry in the series. I wouldn't let them pull the wool over your eyes that much, because according to the PlayStation blog, this is just a brand new original story being added and otherwise recutting what already exists and making it into one game. So originally it was Ultimate Ninja Storm 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now they're recutting it where it's all one connective storyline, which I find interesting. It's certainly one way to go about things. I didn't expect CyberConnect to have a new game so soon because they just finished Demon Slayer. But personally, as someone who does love at least the original Ultimate Ninja Storm, I remember the hype I had for that game was unlike anything else. It's nice to see another Naruto game. I just wish it wasn't another collection of a thing that already exists with now 60 frames. It just feels like charging for this isn't right. Now, there will also be new playable characters, but for me, this was definitely a weird announcement and one of the bigger disappointments. But we'll see, because I'll definitely be trying it out. There was Chia. Chia is this cool Breath of the Wild style game, and it was announced as a day one PS Plus title. That one looked pretty solid. I don't know if I'm going to be diving into it because it just doesn't look like my speed, but I may give it a look at some point later down the year. And then the last game that I think is worth talking about is Humanity, which is this spirit dog that is guiding humans. I joked that the idea behind this game was a dude was walking his dog and thought to himself, well, imagine if the dog walked me, and that was it. And then here we have the game called Humanity, and I was interested in it. And then they show like level builders, create your own content, share your own content. Call me closed-minded, but when I see these types of games, that becomes a death sentence to me. I'm not interested in the content creation ecosystem. I personally play a game to play a game, not to make games. I'm already doing that separately anyway, but like, I don't want to do that in general. I remember buying like Project Spark for the Xbox One and I bounced off of that. These games within games, Dreams, another one on PlayStation. Nah, not really feeling it. So that's where I stand on Humanity. Not a bad looking game by any means, but overall a kind of middling showcase. Capcom and Larian, for me, saving the day. Certainly much to be said about Suicide Squad. And for those of you who do care, there was a lot of PSVR content. But for me, the VR, just not super interested in it. So that's everything I had to say. That's everything for the showcase. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on what happened during this state of play. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Please do fire away and keep your eyes peeled, because tomorrow we'll have an update on Bethesda, given what's happened with Tango Gameworks. So don't worry. It's not like we're not covering that. So I'll see you then as well. Until then, take great care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thanks to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.